I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. My guest today is one of India's most highly regarded military commentators. He's the editor of Force magazine. Yesterday evening, an 11-minute video that he put out on Operation Sindoor was blocked by the government. Was this because he spoke critically of Operation Sindoor and because he claimed 4 Indian Air Force planes had been shot down by the Pakistanis? Was he censored because his opinions are disliked by the government? Today, he's my guest to tell us what precisely he said about the 4 planes and Operation Sindoor. Don't we, the Indian people, have a democratic right to know? In fact, who does it concern more than us? Now let me introduce my guest, the editor of Force magazine, Pravin Sawhney. Mr. Sawhney, what was your response when you heard yesterday evening that your 11-minute video on Operation Sindoor was blocked by the government? What went through your mind?
Thank you, Karan, for inviting me. Now, there was immediate disbelief, and there were 2 reasons that crossed my mind that what is the problem. One is that if you see Operation Sindoor, in my assessment, it is at a crisis stage between India and Pakistan. We are not even at the pre-war stage, which will be when the army starts mobilizing on both the sides, and after that will be the hot war. So when you are at a crisis stage and you don't want sensible things, voices to speak, explanations being given, then there is something wrong, I thought. The second reason I was thinking is that, look, today the world is going through turmoil, it is going through geopolitical change. And the Modi government and India, and rightly so, we are looking for a place in this world. We want to be a major power. This is what is our aim, to become a major power by 2047. So amongst at least the global South nations, we want to be the leader of these nations. There is an issue of credibility. There is an issue of credibility that at a crisis stage, why is it that the government wants to hide the information? So, I was disappointed and disbelief.
This is the government that proudly claims we are the biggest democracy in the world. We have a prime minister who boasts that we are the mother of democracy. Aren't we undermining all of that when your 11-minute video gets blocked?
I agree entirely with you. This is precisely what I was thinking. I mean, we go and tell, which is rightly so, we are a democracy, so let us be a democracy. Let us behave like a democracy. See, I mean, if there is war, I can understand that, yes, there are a lot of operational matters. Many people will not be discerning. So it is necessary for the government and for the people also to be responsible and see that the information doesn't go out, which may help the enemy. But we are at a crisis stage.
Okay. Although the government has given no explanation for blocking the video, let's come to some of the reasons why this might possibly have happened. First, in that video, you accepted that Indian Air Force planes have been shot down by Pakistan. Let's first focus on that. You said 4 planes had been shot down. Where were those 4 planes shot down?
Now, Karan, let me correct you. I didn't say that four planes have been shot down. I didn't claim that. First of all, before I answer your question, the key thing to all of us know about is that there is a massive information war going on, especially in India today. What that means is there is misinformation, disinformation, fake reality, all sort of things are going on, especially in our mainline television channels. We see it morning, evening, it's going on. So amongst all that, it is for anybody and everybody to decide what one thinks is genuine and what it is not. So I have also picked what I thought in my understanding that this was the correct picture. So let me tell you of two things which I mentioned in my video as well. On the seventh morning, after the night of Operation Sindoor, India Today television, with their prominent anchor Gaurav Sawant, I saw his program, a clip of that, where he was talking to his local journalist in Pampore, which is south of Kashmir, and he was giving a report of what's going on there. And he said that look, the Srinagar airport has been closed. Then he said that a jet has fallen here and the parts of the jet, they are all over. And then he said that the Indian Air Force commandos and security people, they have come and cordoned off the whole thing. He specifically mentioned Indian Air Force. And he further added that there are three such instances that have happened in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, I take that as perhaps correct. After that, there were reports that appeared in three prominent papers, three Hindu, Indian Express, and Tribune, which said that a jet has crashed in Bhatinda. So when I sum it up, three there, one here, I'm quite happy to say that perhaps this is what has happened. You see, and
In
because
other
and
words, just forgive my interruption. In other words,
yeah,
three in Kashmir, one in Batinda, making a total of four.
and the key thing here is that it was said that the uh, Indian Air Force people were cordoning off the area. Now, why would the Indian Air Force do that?
Now tell me, we're talking about four planes. I'm just repeating what you said. One in Bhatinda, three in the Kashmir area. Do we know where in the Kashmir area?
See, again, one, of course, was in Pampore because the journalist was reporting from there. And beyond that, you see, there is a lot in social media. Now, I won't really pick it up. And this is not something that I would like to speak on your show, but certainly three, I very correctly, remember he mentioned that three things have happened.
Okay, three in Kashmir, one in
Yeah.
Bhatinda, making a total of four. Do you have any sense of what sort of planes these were?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. And what I would point to is that one was certainly a Rafale. And the reason I'm saying this is that reports came that there is a senior French intelligence officer who has confirmed that one Rafale has been lost in this India-Pakistan air skirmish. And after that, what I noticed was that the stock of the Chengdu Aircraft Corporation, who are the manufacturers of J-10 aircraft, which is with the Pakistan Air Force, suddenly their stock soared. And Dassault Aviation, who are the manufacturers of Rafale, their stocks came down, they crashed. Not really crashed, but they came down. So when I join the dots, it is perhaps correct to say that one Rafale and J-10, they were involved. And
Do you have
beyond
any?
that, yeah,
Do you have
beyond
any sense
that,
about the other three?
Yeah, beyond that, what we know is that yes, as far as Indian Air Force is concerned, all the top-notch jets they were airborne. Besides the Rafale, there was Mirage, there was Sukhoi 30, MKI, and there was MiG 21. Now, how many have come down? Where I can't say because it is on the social media. Though a lot of pictures have appeared, ejection seats have been shown, but I won't take that as real evidence.
Tell me, do you have any sense, do you have any explanation for how these planes were shot down?
Yeah, see, I have no explanation how Rafale came down. I'm just specifically talking of Rafale, and I gave you the reason why I'm mentioning Rafale. But when I see a combination of J-10, the aircraft, Chinese aircraft, which is now with the Pakistan Air Force, and PL-15 missile, which is mounted on this aircraft, I find a unique combination, a very deadly one, and I would like to explain this to your viewers very briefly. You see, this is a unique aircraft, J-10, which has a very long nose, so it has a very powerful radar. Now, what that means is its radar is so powerful. It's a single seater fighter jet with a very powerful radar, so it can track and detect targets much further than the range of the missile which is mounted on this aircraft. Now, what this means is that it can see the targets further away, and once it tracks and detects, and the pilot is very clear that all right, this is the target I want to engage, so it releases the missile. What that means is that in slightly technical terms, it's called the engagement envelopment. It's very large for this combination. So in my thinking, when I look at it in a slightly technical way, it is this combination which perhaps was misjudged by the Rafale pilot.
Let me
Because
point
after
out at
all,
this, let me point out
yeah,
at this stage that two very highly reputed Western publications are echoing what you've just said. The British newspaper, The Telegraph, and CNN, the American channel, have both written extensively about the efficacy and the power of China's PL-15 missile. You're suggesting that the combination of the PL-15 missile and the J-10C aircraft means that the missile is able to detect and target targets like planes that are beyond visual distance by a fairly considerable amount.
yeah. See, no, it's like this that uh, let me add a bit more here, which is very interesting part. The export version of this PL-15 missile, export version, which reports say was given to the Pakistan Air Force, has a range of 145 kilometers. But the original version, which they have kept, PLAF has kept, PLA Air Force, actually is much more. It is 300 kilometers. I honestly suspect, again, this is my guess, that what had happened was that on 22nd, when this problem happened, when we had Operation Sindoor, I wouldn't be surprised if, one odd that 300-kilometer was also given, because after all, they are those ironclad friends, China and Pakistan. But that said, that is the speculation part. The important part is, as I said, that the detection range of the aircraft radar is more than of the missile. That means it can see beyond the missile. What that means is
Which is what makes it so effective and dangerous.
it makes it no. What it does is, Karan, that assuming hypothetically speaking that the Rafale was at the other end, and the Rafale, they can see the Rafale. That means the engagement circuit has become so big that even without realizing, the Rafale pilot was actually in what is called the contested airspace.
In other words, the
That means,
Rafale pilot would not have known that he was in a vulnerable position.
so A, he could have misjudged the envelope, hypothetically speaking, and B, which is very important, that if the mission was just to release the standoff missile, that means that is the moment he didn't realize that he had to do another operation which is called counter air operation, because he was in the contested airspace. So it is in that confusion that perhaps the PL-15 got him.
Now, let me ask you an obvious question. If the combination of the Chinese J-10C aircraft and the Chinese PL-15 missile is so deadly as you are suggesting, does it mean that if India were to be in an aerial combat with China, we would be at a significant disadvantage?
No, what that means, Karan, is basically if you talk of China, it is an entirely different war. The war that India will fight with Pakistan is not the war that India will fight with China, because China is today at the cutting edge of modern warfare. What that means is that there will be no one on one engagements between the two air forces, something that will happen between India and Pakistan. In the case of India and PLA, which is the Chinese military, what will happen is they have the capability. For example, they have the largest missile arsenal, cruise missile, ballistic missile, hypersonic missiles in the world, which is under the organization called Rocket Force. And they have bombers. What is a bomber? Bomber has long ranges. It does ground attack, and it can carry heavy payload. So the point I'm making is that even before, because these are the capabilities, even before our aircrafts attempt to take off from their bases, they have the capability to hit them there only with the missiles as well as their bombers, and perhaps even to blow up the fuel dumps, to blow up the ammunition storage points. So if you don't have that, so there is problem. I mean, they have that capability to see. Last point on this, let me make, there has to be a reason why the US military, and they have done so many war gamings in Western Pacific, and every time they have come to the conclusion that it is a very formidable adversary, PLA. And especially in the first island chain, they have come to the conclusion that every time they did a war game, the US military did not win. So the point to make is we are against a entirely different adversary, which is the People's Liberation Army.
Now, yesterday evening at the press briefing that he held, the Foreign Secretary was asked a specific question whether, in fact, the Pakistanis had downed 4 Indian planes. I want to quote to you Mr. Misri's brief one sentence answer. He said, "When the time is right, an official announcement will be made." What do you make of that answer? Because to my
Yeah,
ears, it certainly doesn't sound like a denial.
absolutely, you're right. That is the first part, is that it is not a denial. And the second part is, if we take the experience of the Modi government when they did the 2019 Balakot, which is called Operation Bandar, then please remember at that time there was an instance where the Indian Air Force, with its own missile, hit its own helicopter. But it was kept under wraps until the 2019 general elections were over. It is only after that the Indian Air Force said that yes, this was a case where we did our own hit and 6 people got killed. So the point here is very simple, Karan, that they will wait for the opportune time. That is it.
Okay, let's at this point, Mr. Sawhney, come to the rest of your 11-minute video. To my eyes, it's a very strong critique of Operation Sindoor. First, you have concerns about the 9 targets chosen. You say terrorist camps and launch pads are temporary. Why does that make them unsuitable targets?
See, they are completely unsuitable for two reasons. The first reason is you are basically targeting terrorist camp and launch pads, which are not permanent. They are not permanent. If you target them here, tomorrow they can be made somewhere else. And as far as the terrorists are concerned, they are faceless and nameless. So who are you targeting? And more important is that you are using your military power, and that too the lead force of the military power on a non-military target. Why are you doing that? It is a non-military target. You yourself have said that we have hit the civilian, and we wanted to do these launch pads. So you're not hitting the Pakistan military. So you use your military for a military target, and the military target has to be a Pakistani army base or an air force base. Then it is justifiable that you've done this.
Okay.
Otherwise, it is not.
Secondly, in your video, you also contest the government's repeated claim that its strikes were non escalatory. You say air power is not non escalatory. You say the very key characteristics of the Air Force are all escalatory. To laymen who may not understand this point, could you explain it further, please?
Well, of course. See, air power is at the, when we talk of air power, we are talking of its characteristics or what is called the core competencies being. It has range, it has flexibility. That means it is only the air power, not the army, which can shift from one theater to the other theater in less time. And on top of that, it can do precise targeting at long ranges, precise with the standoff weapons. Now, when we are talking of all this, we are talking about a escalatory force. It cannot be non-escalatory, which means that what you have done is, and which is exactly what has happened, used it in a suboptimal way, which is not the way its characteristics or core competencies need to be used. You are underutilizing that, which is not a good thing at all. It has serious implications.
In fact, that is the next point I want to pick up. You say in your video that you believe that the Air Force was used suboptimally, and you say this is revealed what you call the limitation and shortcomings of the Indian Air Force. Can you explain that point for the audience?
Yes, of course. There are two things again here. When you use the force suboptimally, let me first take you to Operation Bandar. What happened there? Same thing will happen here. I'll just explain that. Uh, in Operation Bandar, we know that the next day, the Pakistan Air Force, they did their offensive, which is what they call Operation Swift Retort. And we know that it was demonstrated that the electronic warfare is good. Now, what is electronic warfare? It is basically jamming capability. That you jam the communications of your adversary, he is unable to listen. Okay, so it happened then. So we exposed our limitation of electronic warfare, which is a winning factor of the Indian Air Force. And after that, what the Pakis did? Pakistanis went to the Chinese, and with their help, in August of 2020, under the Pakistan Air Force, an organization was created which is called Center for Artificial Intelligence and Computing. So artificial intelligence was brought in, and their primary project, the number one project, was what they call cognitive electronic warfare. That means artificial intelligence and electronic warfare. It is a different ballgame. I just want to make the point that you expose the limitation, they made use of that limitation. Next. Now, obviously, when we have done something like this here also, there are plenty of limitations that have got exposed, something which I will not talk at this stage. But as I said, that you are using this suboptimally for the second reason. And the reason is that the warfare is changed. What that means is that the earlier warfare, what used to happen between India and Pakistan, right from the first war of Kashmir that we fought, please remember that at the end of it, on 1st January 1949, a military line was created, which was called ceasefire line. Even today, that military line exists on the ground with a different name called line of control. What that means is, in all the wars that we have fought, 65, 71, the Indian military, now when we talk of a land war, we are only talking about the Air Force and the Army. They have not been able to decisively push the Pakistan military in the western sector so as to obliterate this line. It exists. Now, that has only been possible because then the technology was not there with both the armies. What that meant was that the Air Force had a different role until 71, which was to support the land war. It was in support of the land war. If you see the land war, it is about the army. Now, a soldier can only walk this kilometer, so many kilometers in a day. A tank can only go this much. A gun can go only this much. So the whole thing was so slow that nobody actually ever won in the Western sector. I'm not talking Bangladesh, that was an entirely different thing altogether. Now that war has changed, with the coming of technology, and all the technology has come in the Air Force. Today they have a capability of real-time situation awareness by the sensor fusions. There's so much of technology that today air forces will be the lead in a war between India and Pakistan. So what will happen is the armies will actually follow the air forces, because it is the air force who will be required, the two air forces for their armies, to create a air corridor, which is called creating a air superiority. So there will be a possibility of the armies moving fast. Now, when you have all this, why are you using your air force suboptimally and exposing its limitations to the enemy? That is my point.
Now, as a result, you argue Operation Sindoor did not deter Pakistan. You, in fact, say the reverse has happened.
Yeah, I
Explain.
mean, this is a logical conclusion, Karan. After what I have just given a little explanation for your viewers, the other side, the enemy, Pakistan, they know the limitations of the air force now, and air force, as I said, will be the lead service in your war plan. When they know all this, how are they getting deterred? What is deterrence? Deterrence basically means that the other side, which is Pakistan, which is constantly keeping an eye on the capabilities of your three service, army, air force, navy, should feel that, oh, if I get into a war with them, or if I do a proxy war, they have a capability to push me or start a war which I may not be able to end on favorable terms, so the enemy will be deterred. You have exposed the limitations. Why will the enemy be deterred? In fact, you are deterring yourself by exposing the limitation of your premium force.
This is why you conclude, and I'm quoting you, Pakistan is not punished. You believe terrorist attacks could increase in Jammu and Kashmir as well as other parts of India.
See, they are certainly not punished, and in any case, if we see Operation Sindoor, what is happening is that we are repeatedly giving that indication that we are happy to put an end to this operation if the other side is happy also. But they are repeatedly saying, in fact, that DG ISPR is saying that what we did on the night of 6th, 7th was a defensive action. The offense came from the Indian side. So our action was defensive. Now we have to give a response. So what is the response? It's heightened activity all along the border we saw last night. All along the border. And this is what will become the new normal. See, this is the tragedy, that this crisis, which used to be limited to the artillery fire at best or small arms fire, will now have drones, will have missiles. This is the new normal you've created in peacetime. So
So,
they can do anything. So therefore, they could even now. I mean, I expect, this is my assessment, that the violence will increase in Jammu and Kashmir. It is my assessment that perhaps in the rest of India, they could start doing something by what we have done.
so if I understood you correctly, strategically, our planners have made a mistake.
See, it is. I would actually go beyond mistake by using the word blunder. Why are you exposing your, see, the first time was fine, you did that, you crossed the into the airspace also. This time you decided to stay in your airspace, but the point is, what came out of it? Right now this activity is going on all along our border, and what have we accomplished? Okay, if we say that what we have accomplished is we have taken the revenge of the killings in what happened on the 22nd of April, fair enough. But there are other ways of doing that. There are other ways of building up your war capabilities. See, which is what is called deterrence. It's a subject by itself. So I think we have ended up not good as far as the military operation is concerned. Politically, it may be something that helped the government. I don't know.
My last question. The statement that appears when one tries to access your video says the following: this content is currently unavailable in this country because of an order from the government related to national security or public order. Do you believe your video? And perhaps I should now add, do you believe the interview you've just given me affects national security or public order?
Not at all. As a responsible person, citizen, and as a person who understands warfare, I have worked in this area for nearly 40 years. I'm certain that what we are facing is a crisis situation. I'm certain that the credibility of India should be upheld. I'm certain what is going on, we should accept. And this is the way it should be until we get into a pre war phase, which is what I said. We are no longer there right now. So I don't think I've compromised national security at all.
So you have no regrets about either making that video or speaking publicly and openly to me just now? No regrets at
No,
all?
my only regret is that this information war has to be made sensible. We are in a crisis situation. This, we should have more people and the government also coming forward and giving information at this stage. This is the way it should be.
Mr. Sawhney, thank you very much for the time you've given me. Thank you very much for agreeing to go public and to clarify your views and to explain what you said, and also to explain why you believe that the censoring of your video, and I'm deliberately using that phrase, the censoring of your video was wrong. It undermines India's democratic credentials. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you, Karan. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.